welcome to Life After the Fire, the preeminent podcast on all things related to having a great and awesome life after the fire, life after the fire service. My name is Chris Phelps. I'm your host, and I'm joined today by a friend from far away. Actually, he's kind of closer than normal he would be. Retired Battalion Chief Steve Neible. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you for having me.
So Steve and I used to call it playing firemen, but we both had similar careers in that we both retired out as battalion chiefs from our respective departments. Him from the Great White North, what was it, Peoria, Illinois? Okay.
Peoria, Illinois.
And I retired out of Florida, and but then we met in the middle. He moved south to Nashville, and I moved north to Nashville, and we connected. I guess about 11 or 12 years ago. We both started
2012, I believe.
2012. I started at the end of 2011. So 2011, 2012, we both joined the area volunteer fire department. And so Steve, I guess let's start with that. So you had a how many year career with Peoria?
25 years.
25-year career. And you moved to Nashville, and you I guess the fire service, you weren't done with the fire service. Why did you join the volunteer fire department?
Well, my son moved with my wife and I. He was 19 years old at the time, kind of, a 19-year-old kid lost in the world, didn't know what he wanted to do. He went to 1 year of college in Illinois and decided to move to Tennessee with us. And I found out that the fire station there close to our house was a volunteer fire station. And so we stopped and talked with the guys, and I asked my son, hey, would you want to try this out and, see if you like it? And he said yes. And I said, I'll do it too. I was still fairly young, 54 years old. And I said, I'll do it too. And we can do it together.
That's awesome.
Got started, 10 years or 11 years ago, whatever it is now. And still doing it, unfortunately, in a way.
Fortunately or unfortunately. Fortunately for the residents of the communities that we served, having, coming on board with, the experiences you had, Peoria was a pretty busy fire department, right?
It was busy.
And how many station department?
12 stations.
12 stations.
About 20,000 calls a year. Yeah. And majority of those are run out of about half of the stations. They're the busier stations. So
gotcha. So you and as I drop into this new area volunteer department, and already have a good amount of experience. Your wealth of knowledge was invaluable to the department. From the get-go, and then having the opportunity to do it alongside your son, I got to imagine the feeling of pride there, huh?
Yeah, he was maybe 6 years old, I would guess, maybe 5-6 years old, and he was at one of the firehouses. I was a captain at the time, and he was standing on the front bumper, and I'm standing beside him, had my gear on. I think I was holding an axe or something like that. And so we, here he is now 19 years old, and we recreated the picture in front of a Williamson County Station 22 engine. Me, both of us in our gear in the same position, me holding an axe. So we have those pictures up on our wall at home, which, I kind of cherish,
That's awesome. That's good stuff. And your son now, he's gone on to totally immerse himself in the fire service, and he's now what's he doing now?
He's an engineer now for the Columbia, Tennessee Fire Department, south of Nashville.
Gotcha. So he went through the training and now is working full time. And he still volunteers as well on his off days.
He still volunteers. In fact, he's a live-in. He lives at Station 22 for Williamson County, and works full time also. So he's pretty immersed in it right now.
Yeah. So the department that we both joined, which I guess at the time, I don't even remember, what, 7 or 8 station department.
Getting ready to be 9.
I don't remember how many like square miles or whatnot, but just south of the city of Nashville was Williamson County. So the cities of Franklin, Brentwood, Spring Hill, Fairview. So we, with the rescue squad, we covered a lot of the unincorporated areas. And,
exactly.
And some of the stations, at the time had or still have live-in quarters. So they have quarters where the volunteers live and stay overnight, and so that's a great opportunity. More experience, more exposure, as well as a great deal for the community, as opposed to the regular salaries that they would have to pay for full-time personnel.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a great deal. It's a good deal for him too. He's living rent free.
Yeah.
And eating most of his meals at my house.
That's good. And so I guess, so 25-year career, and then did you do anything on the side, during your career in the fire service?
I had a lawn care business.
Okay. And that, provide you some additional income, some additional stability, but you didn't do that after you retired from the fire department.
I only did the lawn care business I had it for 5 years. Gotcha. I think I sold it a week before our son was born.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I had it for 5 years. And once he was born, we had 2 kids, and we just decided I would stay home with them on my days off, and while my wife was working, and it worked out. I spent a lot of time with my son and daughter growing up, and well worth it.
Good. That's good stuff.
The service made it very possible for me to spend a lot of time with my kids.
Yeah. Now what, so in retirement, what are some things that you did along the way to create that life after the fire service, or life after your paid fire service career that allowed you to, for lack of a better term, to volunteer, or, as I used to call it, play fireman?
Well, I just, the love for the fire service. When I retired, I really wasn't wanting to retire when I retired. My wife worked for Caterpillar and had a great opportunity to come to Nashville in a high position with Caterpillar. And, when she came home and said she wanted to relocate, she had stayed in Peoria for 25 years so I could have a career. We would have lived all over the world with Caterpillar. And she asked if I would consider retiring so we could move to Nashville. That's awesome. I told her it was going to be up to her. She could make the decision. Whatever she decided, that's what I would do. Yeah. Hoping she knew how much I loved the fire service and would say, we'll just stay here. Well, she came home one day and said she wants to move. Uh-huh. So she went to Nashville a year and a half ahead of me. I stayed to hit my 25-year mark. And then I went to Nashville. But, I was really not wanting to leave at all. I really was, I was a battalion chief at that point. I was really wanting to stay longer and wasn't ready to get out of the fire service. So, my son going with me, had he not went, I probably would have been out of the fire service. Uh-huh. And, him going and then meeting Aaron Kinney, and ended up getting hired again as a full-time firefighter in Mount Juliet, kept my career going.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right. So So how long after retirement did you wind up as rehired?
I think it was only about a year and a half. And Chief Kinney hired me. You know, I don't know if you remember
they were like they're starting out as a brand new fire department, right? So you're starting from the ground up. So you got to do.
They had the county did their fire protection for them, and Mount Juliet is just on the east side of Nashville, butts up to Nashville. And the county had done their fire protection for them, and the city wanted to start their own fire department. And they hired Aaron Kinney as their first ever fire chief, and Jamie Luffman as their assistant fire chief, and me as a captain. And then they hired the firefighters, and myself and the two chiefs were riding a fire engine and running a shift.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was an interesting experience, starting a fire department from scratch, and I don't recommend it, but
yeah, but I mean, just having the benefit of all your past experience, sure made it a heck of a lot easier and shortened the learning process or developing process to get it up and running.
Yeah, Chief Kinney knew my background, and you know, he was on the rescue squad at the time also when he got hired.
Yeah.
And I think he was the first ever county coordinator for Williamson County.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And he knew my background and asked if I would come help get this department started. And like I said, I wasn't really ready to get out of the fire service yet. So I said, sure.
Yeah. So what do you think it was about the fire service that was drawing you to stay involved?
You know, it's just a great brotherhood.
Uh-huh.
You make some lifelong friends there. It was just a fun job. I mean, we went to lots of fires in Peoria. I mean, I told people we went to fires every day. Obviously, it wasn't every day, but we were having, 15 or more fires a month.
Wow.
So some days that, they were hitting on your shift, and sometimes they weren't. But we were going to a lot of fires. I loved going to fires. It was fun. The guys were fun, and when you're working a lot like that, it just pulls everybody together. The bonds get so much stronger when when you started having trouble around the firehouse, guys getting at each other. The best solution was to have a fire.
Yeah.
Problem went away. Everything got better when you had fires.
So one of my first ever fire chiefs in Central Florida, he got himself in a little trouble because of a statement very similar to that. I guess I wasn't around when this happened, but as I understand it, there was a little morale issue around the fire department, and I guess something had gotten back to the newspaper, and they interviewed the fire chief, and that was one of his responses was, well, we a lot of these problems would go away if we run a couple more fires.
Yeah. We weren't setting them.
Yeah. It's not anything like that, but the responding to something like that, the teamwork involved, the camaraderie, it draws the guys together, and it makes, the small stuff, is just that. It's the small stuff. And
when you start having to have each other's backs on a daily basis, man, it really brings you together.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys didn't clean the bathroom well enough yesterday.
Yeah. That worked well.
But man, we had a great time at that job or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So I think that's a great, having that opportunity. I know definitely, for myself personally, having that opportunity, I was still young and still had an interest, and still, had some wits about me to be involved in the fire service. And that definitely made the transition from, you know, a career firefighter to no longer, you know, to now no longer being involved with the fire service at all. You know, it made that transition for me a heck of a lot easier. You know, involving myself with the volunteer fire department. And not that that was the, you know, the reasoning behind it. I mean, obviously the reason was very similar to yours. I was young. I still had a lot of, you know, experience and knowledge, and I still had a love for the fire department, love for the job. And, you know, it was an opportunity to keep doing it. So it was good stuff.
Yep.
Now,
it's a great job. Great job. I'd go back and do it all over again if I could.
Yeah. Now, you know, living now the afterlife on a firefighter pension, you know, if you had to, as a family, just live on your firefighter pension, could you do it?
Well, we probably wouldn't live the way we do.
Sure. So definitely, obviously, you know, living within your means. But you know, you guys, it sounds like you guys have done very well for yourself. Your wife is now retired, collecting a pension as well from Caterpillar.
Yes.
And you know, so between the two of you is a couple of retirements, and then
life is good.
Life is pretty good. You're coming to us from your winter home in Naples, Florida, and you know, are you able to live this life because, well, I guess, how did you get to this point to where you can live this life? You obviously did some things along the way, and you did them right.
I married a smart woman.
That solves a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She had a very good career at Caterpillar.
Yeah.
That's
what brought me to Tennessee too, was a smart woman.
I think exactly.
She said,
I remember that. Yeah.
She'd been following me around for 15 years. It was my opportunity to follow her. So,
yeah. Yep. I mean, I wasn't following my wife around, but she basically stayed put in Peoria, you know, and fortunately for her, she still was able to climb the ladder at Caterpillar, which, you know, a lot of times that would cause your career to stall by not being able to be mobile and move. But
sure,
she still did well for herself.
Cool, good stuff. What if anything? You know, thinking back to, you know, getting on the volunteer department, like someone, you know, coming from, you know, background and experience like you did, and stepping into a volunteer fire department, like what are some of the things that, I guess you would share or recommend if, you know, somebody else was in a similar situation? Like, hey, I'm getting ready to retire. I'm going to move to Tennessee. I'm going to go, you know, be a volunteer as well. What would be some advice you would have for them?
I mean, I would just say, follow your dream, follow your passion. You know, if that's what you really want to do, it's totally different than being on a full-time fire department. You know, I always say that the fire and the smoke is the same, but the whole program is totally different. You know, you don't, when we rolled out of the firehouse, we knew how many people were going to be on the truck. We knew how many was going to be on every other piece of equipment, and how many people were going to be at the fire. The volunteer fire service isn't that away. You know, is anybody going to show up? And, you know, are you going to have 1, 2? Are you going to have 10, 15? You don't know who's going to show up.
And what experience level they've got. Yeah.
Or what experience level. Yeah. And a lot of these guys, especially Williamson County is a pretty big fire department. You don't even know these people from these other firehouses. You may have seen them, talked to them, but you really don't know them, know their capabilities. Yeah. What kind of experience they have they ever even been in a fire? You know, you really don't even know that. Yeah. So it's a lot different. And, you know, I would say to somebody, you really got to be prepared for it's going to be different than where you came from.
Exactly. And I think, eye-opening, to say the least. Like set your, when you get there, set your watch back a number of years, comparatively speaking.
Yeah. But I was pretty well prepared for the volunteer because I started out, when I was 21 years old as a volunteer.
Yeah.
So I had came up through the volunteer, I spent about 7 years prior to being hired full time. So I kind of knew what to expect getting into a volunteer fire department.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of an idea what it was going to be like.
Yeah. Same here. I didn't think it would still be the same as it was that, 20 plus years ago, but there were still a lot of similarities.
I mean, I actually would have to say it's worse because there's so many more demands on volunteers now that, back in the early 80s wasn't, you showed up and, they might have a few classes for you to go through. Now, the fire service demands a lot out of volunteers.
Yeah.
Certifications and training. And it's not like it was, when I started, in 1980.
Yeah.
It's just totally different. So it's hard for people to, have a family and drop what they're doing and come to the firehouse and participate.
Right.
So it's very much different these days.
Yeah. Yeah. All good stuff. Well, I usually like to keep these to roughly about 30 minutes. I think we're getting close to that point. I like to end all these with a call to action. So, I think in our case here, after our conversation, I would say for, anybody that is looking at, or nearing retirement, it's always a very popular, thing to say or do, down here in South Florida is I'm going to, retire and move to North Carolina, or I'm going to retire and move to Tennessee. Keep in mind, a lot of those areas are still served by volunteer fire departments. And while you may be eligible for retirement from your paid career, you still have a love for the job and you still have, knowledge to contribute. Look and see where you can, best serve the area that you move to. Look into, being a volunteer.
These departments desperately need people. They desperately need people. They need experienced people. If you still have the desire, there is a place for you to extend your career. It's certainly not demanding that you every third day or whatever schedule you're working, you have to be there.
Right.
So, you can do it on a little bit more of a flex schedule, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
But volunteer services still exist, and they do need your help.
Awesome.
If a full-time guy's willing to give it.
Good job. And if you just so happen to be in the Williamson County, Tennessee area, and you're looking for a connection of somebody that you can reach out to, get you started, Steve Neible, how would somebody get a hold of you, Steve?
They could email me at my last name, Neible @comcast.net,
cool.
Or give me a call, 309-645-2774.
Awesome.
You can go online to the Williamson County website. I guess I don't know it off the top of my head, but Google it, and there's a link there.
We'll try to drop it in the show notes. So anybody that's watching this or listening to this, pop in the show notes if you're interested, and we'll make sure that we have the link for you. And
you can apply right online.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, they would love to have anybody, but certainly would people with experience, like you said, is invaluable, and it just helps out so much. Somebody coming right in with experience. Yeah,
and we didn't really even touch on it, but as you said, you got your start as a volunteer. I got my start as a volunteer. It's a great way to kind of dip your toe into it and see if it's something that you have an interest in, and a way to get a jump start on a career in the fire service.
way to learn if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's where my son started as a volunteer. Now he's a full-time firefighter.
Yeah. Good stuff. My son's in the fire academy now as well. And yeah, so
good for
hopefully he'll be a second generation firefighter as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, my son's a third generation. My father was.
Yeah, I remember the pictures of your dad. That was something. Great stuff. Well, cool. Well, and then as far as our show goes, if you like what you're hearing and we're putting out some good stuff, give us some feedback, like, follow, and share. You're welcome to send us an email at info@latfpodcast.com. That's info@latfpodcast.com. Let us know if there's somebody you'd love to have us have on the show. Thank you all, and we'll see you on the next one.